My name is Tomo Kihara. Originally from Japan, I'm now a master's student at the Design for Interaction program at TU Delft. And as introduced, there is one word that I like you people to remember after you leave this room, and that is street debater. Street debater is a new job to question the society. And it's a job that I made. And today I'll be talking about how I got the weird title as the chief street debater. So street debating actually came up from designing an alternative to begging. Begging is becoming a major issue across European cities. In cities such as London, the housing crisis is severe, and the people living on the streets is increasing. And it has become quite often to see people begging on a daily basis. And whenever we encounter people begging on the street, we have negative emotions, such as feeling depressed, feeling doubtful, and feeling guilty for not being able to help. And I come from Japan, where we seldom see the act of begging. And I was so shocked when I came to Europe to see so many people begging on the street. And I had these kind of emotions whenever I saw them. But this emotion and this perspective changed when I became friends with a guy selling cheap CDs on the street of Amsterdam. He was trying to sell these €5 CDs, and he wasn't succeeding. But I kind of liked the way he was selling it, so I became friends with him. And we sold the CDs together for a day. By the end of the day, nobody bought the CD. And yeah, it was sad. But what was surprising was what he said in the end of the day. He told me that actually he was homeless and that he would earn more if he begged, but he prefers to sell CDs because it keeps his dignity intact. And then I realized that the act of begging, we often kind of look down on it. But whenever a person begs on the street, they are also thrashing away their dignity with it. To look at this problem further, I did an interview with people begging on the streets in London and Amsterdam. And then I realized there's two types of begging. And I realized most of the begging starts with temporal begging, where you just stop a London person and ask for money. But it kind of gradually changes into continuous begging. The flow is like this. Once you lose your job, like you lose your house, and you enter this early stage of homelessness where you're struggling to earn money, and you do temporal begging. And if you do that for a long time, you fall down into this state of continuous begging, which is then difficult for you to get back to normal society. I also learned through this interview that for some people, jobs such as selling street magazines can be stigmatizing because the society considers it as a job for homeless people. So from this, I learned that for people in their early stage of homelessness, it's difficult for them to earn money and keep their dignity at the same time. So as a design researcher, I asked myself whether an alternative to begging can be designed that is doable for anybody, and at the same time it connects them back to society. So I went out on the streets and started prototyping with the people living on the streets. And when I design, I always follow my own principle to design playful interventions to create the new normal. And these playful interventions are based on the idea of the magic circle of play, coined by the Dutch philosopher Johan Huizinga. Magic circle of play is a space in which the rules of the real world are suspended. So, for example, if I start hitting somebody here and start a fight, that's a problem, right? But if it is within a boxing ring, it becomes a boxing game. And in this case, the boxing ring is the magic circle. And these magic circles have a strong power to override the existing reality. So in Playful interventions, I use this power of magic circle to reframe and question social issues. And in this case, I question myself if playful interventions can change the act of begging entirely. So I came up with a lot of prototypes which failed a lot. For example, I first tried to turn a game where you throw coins, which didn't work. I also tried to sell like Polaroid pictures by lending out flowers, which kind of worked, but was expensive. But there was one thing that worked, and it was 2 years ago, just before the US election. And we placed 2 cups of the face of Mr. Trump and Mr. Hillary, and asked which should be the next president. And this worked quite a lot, because people are now curious, and they're interested. And some are even humid enough so that they were voting with their coins. And although the interaction itself is just asking for money with a cup, it has a now totally different meaning and interaction behind it. And I also added Master Yoda to the candidate. And Master Yoda won, how I wish. But now people are talking about US election and Star Wars and nothing to do with homelessness. And I realized that for people on the street, when they're being interacted with the passerby, it's often on a basis to be offered help. And this is not an equal relationship. And from this research, I realized that equal conversations on an equal footing, being treated not invisible, is essential to keeping one's dignity. So with this notion in mind, I started prototyping a device, a product that evokes and enhances equal conversation on the street. And I made this device, which is a scale, which asks 1 question and just 2 answers which people can vote, which is this device here. And I handed it out to people begging on the streets in London. And here's what happened.
Trump? Yeah, because there's just going to be new people.
Just very easy to change.
Thanks. And in the end, after the experiment, we learned that this earns quite a lot. It earns 13.5 pounds an hour, and most importantly, stops 12.5 people for an equal conversation. And what was different was that now these people were not invisible. They had a job, which is called street debating, and it's not begging, and they had a reason to be there now. And this power that this simple scale had was really interesting. And I've been doing this for a year, and I realized that street debating not only addresses the problem of begging, but something much bigger. It's addressing the problem of social segregation. There was this one debate that was happening in London, and we were asking whether UK should approve Brexit or not. And there was this one street debater who was also homeless, saying that Brexit was good for him because jobs will come back from the continent and people like him can work. And this opinion came as a surprise for some people because they never knew someone who kind of had these opinions. And reflecting back, I think we live in a world where we only see similar-minded people. We're trapped in this filter bubble created by the social media, and we only see like-minded opinions, and we don't see the other side. I think that street debating will break this bubble and connect the people together to create a public discourse. So with this in mind, I'm expanding the street debater movement globally, and from Stockholm, London to Tokyo, people are having debate on the street. So for example, in Amsterdam, we were having a debate about whether EU should have more immigrants. And in Tokyo, we had a debate whether how we should deal with North Korean nuclear threats. Or we often also talk about whether we should have basic incomes or not. And what's important is that people who are not joining a debate see this question and also thinks to them, like, what is this? And that's quite enough to kind of foster this, that there's a problem that needs to be recognized. And anybody can become a street debater, actually. You just need like 2 cups. But we have a website now, www.streetdebator.com, and we sell the device. You can purchase the device between the price of €1 and €50. And for those who can pay, please pay €50. And we also have a data. It's an open source, so you can download it and make it. And I heard the design Indaba people are making it. So you're going to see several street debaters in Cape Town very soon. So, design Indaba. How will you street debate? Thank you very much.